What if one single sentence from a child could change the life of a broken woman forever? Imagine a young girl at a bus stop, looking up at a homeless stranger with innocent eyes, and saying the words no one expected. You need a home, and I need a mommy. This is not just a story, it's a journey of love, sacrifice, and destiny that will pull you in until the very last word. So before we begin, hit that subscribe button. Because stories like this, stories that twist your heart and remind you of hope, are the ones you don't want to miss. It was late evening when the city buses slowed down at the cold, dimly lit stop near the corner of Pine Street, where people usually came and went without looking at one another. But that night, something unusual happened. On the weathered bench sat a young woman in her early 20s, wrapped in an oversized coat that wasn't hers, her hair messy, her eyes hollow with exhaustion, and her hands trembling as she tried to shield herself from the biting winter wind. Her name was Emily, and until a year ago, she had been just like anyone else, working 2 jobs, dreaming of a better life, and hoping someday she would escape the cycle of poverty. But life had a way of shattering dreams. After losing her job, her tiny apartment, and then her mother, who was the only family she had, Emily found herself wandering the streets, with no destination, no warmth, and no reason left to believe in miracles. That night, she didn't know if she was waiting for the bus, or simply waiting for her life to end. But beside her stood someone else, someone who had no idea that destiny had placed them together. A small girl of 7, wearing a pink jacket, and clutching a stuffed rabbit, stood near the bench with big brown eyes, scanning Emily's face. Her name was Lily, and unlike Emily, she had a home, a big one. In fact, but inside it, her world was incomplete. She had a father who worked endless hours to provide, and a grandmother who was kind but tired. But what Lily didn't have was what she wanted most in the world, a mother. And in the silence of that bus stop, Lily tilted her head, studied Emily's sad, lost expression, and spoke words that pierced deeper than any storm Emily had faced. You need a home, Lily whispered, almost as if she were speaking to herself, and I need a mommy. Emily's heart froze. For a moment, she thought the cold had finally made her delirious. She stared at the little girl, unsure if she should laugh, cry, or run. But Lily wasn't joking. Her innocent eyes held the kind of sincerity adults rarely carried. What did you say? Emily croaked, her voice rough from nights of silence. I said, maybe you can come home with me. You don't look like you have one, and I don't have a mummy. Maybe we can help each other. Emily wanted to dismiss the child's words. She wanted to tell her that life wasn't as simple as trading needs like toys. But the way Lily kept looking at her, as if she truly believed Emily could fill that void in her heart, made something inside the homeless woman ache. Where's your family? Emily finally asked, glancing around the bus stop nervously, fearing the child was alone. But before Lily could answer, headlights swept across the curb. A black SUV pulled up, and a man in his mid-30s stepped out. He was tall, sharp-featured, with the kind of commanding presence that drew attention. His name was Daniel, Lily's father, a successful architect who had built buildings across the city, but couldn't fix the emptiness in his daughter's eyes. Lily? Daniel's voice carried both relief and frustration. I told you not to wander near strangers. He rushed forward, pulling Lily close. His protective arms wrapped around her, but Lily's little finger still pointed at Emily. Daddy, she said, her voice urgent. This is her. She's the one I told you about. She can be my mommy. Daniel froze, blinking in disbelief. He turned his eyes toward Emily, who sat awkwardly, half embarrassed, half frozen by this strange moment. Emily's first instinct was to stand and leave, to vanish before things grew uncomfortable. But then Daniel noticed her ragged clothes, the trembling in her hands, and the exhaustion in her face. She wasn't dangerous, she was broken. I'm sorry, Daniel said curtly, offering a polite but dismissive smile. My daughter has a wild imagination. Thank you for keeping her safe. But before he could finish, Lily tugged at his sleeve. Please, Daddy, she's perfect. She's the mummy I prayed for. Her voice cracked with the raw honesty only a child could carry. Daniel sighed. He thought it was just another phase, like when she begged for a puppy or when she cried for a doll she couldn't have. But Emily's eyes, those deep, wounded eyes, caught him off guard. He found himself wondering who she really was. Against his better judgment, Daniel offered Emily a ride, reasoning it was safer than leaving her on the streets. She resisted at first, but something about Lily's pleading gaze made her agree. And that was how Emily found herself inside a warm car, sitting beside the little girl who believed she was the answer to her prayers, and across from a man who had no idea how much this stranger was about to change his world. Over the weeks that followed, Daniel's initial act of kindness turned into something unexpected. He let Emily stay temporarily in their guest house, strictly out of compassion, or so he told himself. But Lily's attachment grew stronger, and Emily's presence began to weave into their home like threads of fate. Yet, not everyone welcomed her. Daniel's mother, Margaret, who had helped raise Lily, saw Emily as nothing more than a burden, a street girl, unworthy of the family's trust. Tension brewed, secrets unfolded, and Emily's past slowly crept into the light. Because the truth was, Emily wasn't just any homeless girl. She was once a promising writer, a woman with dreams bigger than her circumstances, but betrayal and tragedy had torn her world apart. And as Daniel discovered fragments of her story, he found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about strength, survival, and love. But the deeper Emily's bond grew with Lily, the more danger loomed, because the one person who had destroyed Emily's life wasn't gone. He was watching, and he wasn't going to let her find happiness again. The day the truth exploded began, with laughter. Emily and Lily had spent the morning baking cookies, their giggles filling the kitchen, their bond undeniable. Daniel watched from a distance, his guarded heart softening more than he wanted to admit. But as the warm scent filled the air, a shadow fell across the doorway. Margaret entered, holding a letter in her hand, her face pale. Daniel, she said sharply, do you know who she really is? Emily's chest tightened as Margaret dropped the letter onto the counter. It was from Emily's past proof of debts, betrayals, and the man who had left her on the streets. A man named Victor, once her fiancé, who had stolen everything she owned and left her with nothing. Margaret used the letter as ammunition, demanding Emily leave immediately. But before Daniel could decide, the doorbell rang. When he opened it, Victor stood there, smiling. Long time no see, Emily, he sneered. The nightmare had returned. Victor had tracked her down, not for love, but because he wanted what Daniel had: a wealthy life, a powerful connection, and the woman he once crushed under his lies. The confrontation spiraled quickly. Victor tried to expose Emily as unworthy, painting her as a manipulator. But Lily, with her pure heart, stepped forward. She's my mommy, Lily declared, her small voice shaking but firm. She's the one who loves me. You don't get to take that away. In that moment, something shifted in Daniel. He realized it wasn't about status, wealth, or appearances. It was about love, the kind Emily gave freely, despite her scars. And when Victor tried to drag her past into the present, Daniel did something no one expected. He stood beside Emily. He defended her. And together, they pushed back against the man who had once stolen everything. The battle wasn't easy, but with courage and truth, Emily reclaimed her dignity. By the end of that night, Victor was gone, exposed for his crimes, and chased from their lives. Margaret, humbled by the strength she saw in Emily and the love she gave to Lily, finally admitted she was wrong. And Emily, once a broken girl on a bench, was no longer homeless. She had found something far greater than shelter. She had found family. As months passed, the bond between Emily, Lily, and Daniel blossomed into something unshakable. Love grew, quietly, steadily, until the day Daniel finally admitted what his daughter had known all along, that Emily wasn't just Lily's mommy. She was the missing piece of his heart too. And so, the sentence that began their story at a lonely bus stop became the truth of their lives. You need a home, and I need a mommy. Only now, it wasn't just a wish whispered in the dark. It was a promise, lived in the light.